I'm Mags Mannion and I'm an archaeologist and a glass specialist. I think when I walked through the museum there are so many lovely and interesting beads, glass beads and works in glass, but one of the pieces that always strikes me, basically it looks like a little frying pan, and this would have been used to melt the glass for the artisan to create the pieces. And I think it gives us a real insight into how glass was worked. And I think that the artisan, the people that make the glass, are sometimes the neglected people in the story. Because I wanted to know how the artisan made glass, when I was doing my PhD, I decided the only way I'm going to really understand how they've made these beads, how they've put on the motifs, is to actually do it myself, and also to understand how long it took. And I was very surprised at how quickly you need to work to produce a bead. They're all individually handworked. They're not in a mould. So I think that's why when you look at bead collections in the museums or from excavations, they're all individual. I think when I look at how people in the past worked glass, right from in Egypt when it was first developed, the techniques they've used and the skills, I couldn't, even today, replicate. The decoration is where the skill really comes in. In burials in the Iron Age, glass beads are the most common find in Iron Age burials in Ireland. And then when we go into the Christian period, into the early medieval period, the Christianity says, you shouldn't have things in the burial with you. So that, what we call that then, they're unfurnished burials. So mostly the beads we find from early medieval Ireland are found on settlements, and they're beads that might be lost. There are some sites from early medieval Ireland where they think glassworking took place. Dunmisk, Scotch Street in Armagh, and Garans. In the Viking Age in Dublin, we have there is evidence for glassworking. Anywhere you find rods or pieces of rods or the debris from glass, then, that's evidence they were working the glass. But you can work glass, but not be making glass. Making the glass from the sand takes a lot more heat, it's more complicated, and it's likely that a lot more places were working with pre-made glass or recycled glass. Throughout the year, if something broke, some glass piece broke, they would store it in an area. And so an artisan, a glass worker, eventually would come round and they would take all of that glass, remelt it, and rework it into whatever you wanted, whether you wanted studs or you wanted beads or you wanted a vessel. In the Viking Age, most of the burials from Kilmainham would have had strings of beads in the female burials. So they tended to wear them as strings between the tortoise brooches. And there, I think you see an exuberance for the different colours in the Viking Age collections, where there's different styles, there's a mixing of different motifs on the one bead. The type of dress that was used was a pinafore, what we would call a pinafore, and they attached these here and it held the pinafore in place. And then they also used them on the outer side, they could have hung the keys to the house. And they also had a lot of what they call toiletry items, so tweezers and whatever, and they could have been hung, little scissors as well. So they worked in absence of pockets. These were fantastic things. It's a popular material for a few reasons. One, it's very easy to create it in whatever colour you want. So you add in colourants, so cobalt for blue. So it was used in the past as a replacement for different semi-precious stones. And I think we see that when people look at the Ardagh chalice, the bottom of the Ardagh chalice. You're not, first of all, when you look at it, you're not going to say, oh, they're blue glass studs. You're going to think it's a semi-precious stone, because our perception today is that something of the quality of the Ardagh chalice is going to have semi-precious stones. But in the past, because glass was transformative, so the same as metalwork, so you're taking heat and you're taking a material, and by putting it through the heat, you're transforming it into something else. So it had the same as metalwork, a type of mystery to it. And I think it was one of the reasons that it had value in the past.